time for the visit with the person of high strangeness, we finally got my webpage all organized, and one of the things I requested was for people to write articles and submit them and post them on the webpage. And so I was kind of going through that the other day, and I realized there was someone had written an article and posted it, and it is called Something Strange in Utah. And as I'm reading along there, and I'm thinking, gee, I have a picture that goes with everything this person is writing about, and so I thought it was perfect for me to show you what's on my webpage there, simply because when we go into the rest of the show, that will make you understand or give you some kind of guidance what our guest, Dr. Jordan, is going to be talking about. Now, I would like to tell you that the UFO on the webpage that we showed you there is not that mothership. It was just the closest to it I could get. The one in the clip that I'm showing you belongs to Dr. Jordan, and that is not the mothership being made reference to. So as soon as we can cue this up, we'll get going. We have a real interesting show for you today with Dr. Gilbert Jordan and Darryl Sims. And so enjoy.
High Strangeness in Utah. What is it? When Bob White saw a UFO in eastern Utah and recovered an object ejected by the UFO, he was able to obtain hard evidence of strangeness that had been experienced in that area for possibly thousands of years. Eastern Utah has a long history of UFO sightings and other anomalous phenomena. Petroglyphs, which are estimated to be up to 2,000 years old, may document ancient sightings. Many people have seen a UFO in this area they call the mothership. The object is large with a white light on top, an orange-red light moving vertically, and a blue-green light circling the craft. When the object is present, orange spheres are often seen coming from surrounding areas to enter and exit the larger object. Some people feel that the orange spheres are transport crafts from surrounding underground bases. The orange spheres have been seen coming out of and going into canyon walls near Grand Junction, Colorado, and other areas. From a hiking register on a mountaintop near Moab, Utah, it reads, "I am a witness to a UFO sighting. My Uncle Mark and Aunt Robin woke me up about 5:20 a.m. and saw a bright light on the mountain east of camp. Mark ran over to my tent, woke me up, and I did see the light. It was flashing red and green lights. Now I'm a firm believer in the extraterrestrials." Signed, Jason, 22-year-old. Stories are told of an abduction in this area of a military officer. He was driving along when the next thing he knew, he was walking along the side of a road with no memory of what had happened to him. He was taken to a hospital in Moab, where he told what he remembered. Once the military discovered his whereabouts, he and all his medical records were picked up by the military personnel. His auto was later seen being carried out of a canyon by military helicopter from an area with no roads. Secret military activity? In and around Green River, Utah, there are numerous old military buildings which were part of the White Sands Green River Missile Launch Facility, where they launched missiles to White Sands, New Mexico. From 1964 to 1973, the U.S. Air Force launched 141 Athena missiles, a distance of more than 400 miles from Green River to White Sands in New Mexico, as part of the Defense Department's Advanced Ballistic Reentry System program, also known as ABRES. Tracked by radar as they re-entered the atmosphere, the Athena missiles conducted research intended to improve and protect the warheads of nuclear missiles. Green River also hosted live firing exercises of the Army's Pershing missiles until 1974. In the June 1997 issue of Popular Mechanics, an article about Area 51, Groom Lake, claimed that the activities at Area 51 have been possibly relocated to the facility in Green River. Had the author bothered to actually go there, he would have found that the facility had been abandoned long ago and would not be a good location for any type of secret government activity, since it is in plain view of Interstate Highway 70. However, the article had its desired effect, and to this day many people claim that Area 51 was moved to a secret military base in eastern Utah. There are military bases in Utah, but not in eastern Utah. A more likely location for any secret military activity would be at Dugway Proving Grounds, west of Salt Lake City near the Nevada border. The facility has very tight security and comes alive at night with all kinds of strange lights. The black triangles seen in Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico would be more likely to come from such a facility. However, the facility is visible from nearby hills, although it takes a strong telescope to see much of the nearly 800,000 acres. Dugway Proving Grounds' official mission is chemical and biological weapons defense, and it is under control of the Army's Developmental Test Command. Other dimensions? North of Thompson Springs is a very desolate area called the Tapapoots Plateau. Much of the more isolated land is on the northern Ute Indian Reservation. North of the reservation, in the Utah Basin, is a ranch that was purchased by the National Institute for Discovery Science, also known as NIDS, where scientists have documented the presence of strange creatures and other anomalous phenomena. The events reported on the property might be best attributed to some kind of interdimensional activity due to the fact that the creatures appear and disappear. Retired Colonel John Alexander recently gave a presentation at the Ancient Earth Mysteries Conference entitled Path of the Skinwalkers. The presentation discussed Native American legends about Wendigo and the scientific observations at the NIDS Ranch. On the ranch is a place called Skinwalker Ridge, where many of the strange creatures have been seen. John Alexander is on the advisory board of NIDS. Regarding Wendigo, also known as Bigfoot, Ray Owen, son of a Dakota spiritual leader from Prairie Island Reservation in Minnesota, told a reporter from the Red Wing Minnesota Republican Eagle, "They exist in another dimension from us, but can appear in this dimension whenever they have a reason to. See, it's like there are many levels, many dimensions. When our time is this one finished, we move on to the next, but the big man can go between." A radio DJ in Grand Junction, Colorado, claimed that he saw UFOs simply come out of a hole in the sky before emitted orange spheres, which then vanished into the side of a mountain. A few minutes later, an identical UFO, or the same one, was videotaped by Tim Edwards in southern Colorado. While parallel dimensions have historically been considered to exist only in the realm of the imagination, many physicists are now actively promoting the idea. Even mainstream publications, such as Scientific American, are publishing articles proposing the existence of parallel dimensions. Links to all these sites can be accessed through Lillian's page, www.modernmysteries.tv or www.sigeria.com.
The narrator here was Lori Johnson. She was nice enough to do that for us. Now, the next clip that we're going to hear in just a minute, what I wanted to do is give you a real fast reminder of what had taken place and how I ended up with Dr. Jordan when I went to Laughlin. And so what I did is I'm going to replay the newscasts that were broadcasted in Laughlin, Nevada in reference to Bob White, the object, and how I ended up with Dr. Jordan. So just to refresh your memory, we're going to show you that news clip again when we're ready.
Made an appearance in the 80s near Denver, Colorado. The owner tells us that 5 laboratories, including Los Alamos, have examined it. He says dozens of very rare elements in it have not even been identified. Yeah, that's what he says. That's it for us, folks. Thanks for joining us. Fox 5 News in the morning starts at 6 a.m. Darwin and Greg starts right after this newscast. Good night.
White says he knows where his object came from. He wants to know what it is. You may remember late last year we aired a report on White's Museum of the Unexplained in Reed Spring. The centerpiece of the museum is an object White says was blown off of an extraterrestrial or possibly an experimental government aircraft. In the 1980s, White and a friend were driving in Colorado at night when they saw bright lights over the highway. The UFO emitted a small flash of light and took off. White says the light was the object which he recovered. White has passed a polygraph test on his story. Here's the most recent story on the object. The object, over 80% aluminum with rare trace elements and the strength of steel. Bob White found the object. Robert Gibbons, scientist, historian, former aircraft engineer, and director of the Museum of the Unexplained. Dr. Gilbert Jordan, physicist, worked on space and top-secret military weapons projects. Years ago was shown an object recovered by the military, he says appeared very similar to this one.
Well, they have something in the safe and it can't get it out, it won't work.
In February, the three took White's object to the International UFO Congress in Laughlin, Nevada, and checked into a suite at Harrah's Hotel. Immediately, magnetic door keys to the rooms did not work, and the three had to keep getting new door key cards. The object was placed in a digital room safe, and the next day, with media in the room waiting to see and photograph it,
I tried the safe 3 times, it worked properly. I placed the object in a safe overnight. When they tried to get it open with the digital computers that they had that they plugged in, it said the safe was open, but it wouldn't open. So they had to drill it.
one of the batteries was found cracked and leaking. Happenstance, you might say, except it happened twice more when the object was placed inside the safe, and hotel personnel had to be called to crack it each time.
We never suspected this until this thing happened at Lawson with the lock situation. Needle moves, and basically there's a different amount of radiation given out from the object.
Some type of emission, perhaps in the X-ray or gamma ray range.
We're trying to see what would have caused this film to be exposed. There's no question that the film has been exposed in some manner.
Another test. The object was placed on unexposed dental X-ray film for 36 hours. There was exposure, apparently, from the object.
Is it theirs? Is it ours? This could have been one of ours. Now we have actually the object doing something. We've got to find out what it's doing, what it is, you know.
And the classified object, Dr. Jordan says he was shown years ago by military officials similar to this one.
I said, do you know what this is composed of? They told me that it was primarily aluminum with some silicon, a little bit of iron, nickel, and some calcium thrown, and some trace materials. I asked, I said, is it radioactive or anything? They said, well, we can't tell you that. I have something here that belongs to the world. This is something I think everyone should know. Extraterrestrial, or is it something that came from this planet, something that our government is working on? I believe we have a right to know that.
Okay, the two operating theories, it came from another world, or perhaps our government made it using reverse engineering, where they got the technology from someone from another world.
Oh, I see. I was going to ask, why would our government not want us to know about it?
Well, that's been an argument, you know, for years among those who say the government continually has tried to cover these kind of things up.
Well, this is something that's not going to go away. We'll be hearing more about it.
We will keep our eye on the object, and if anything else develops, we'll...
And with that began my journey with Dr. Jordan and Bob White, Dr. Gibbons, some of the others. Now, I was in Laughlin at a UFO conference at the Flamingo, and they at the same time were over at Harrah's. And at one time, Bob White came to Flamingo, picked me up, and took me over to Harrah's. And that was the first time I ever met Dr. Gibbons. And the next clip is the original interview that I did with Dr. Jordan that I had never laid eyes on. And so I finally want to share that with you. My first interview with Dr. Gilbert Jordan. Sound from him, that's all I got on that. Okay, and you the gentleman I was supposed to statement that we discussed in the interview. I have a press release package, so I'm assuming that I can show you a copy of the actual
well,
documents.
it's the lighting that I need.
Now here's something else. Now listen. This is 80% rubber.
And none of these photograph.
No, we've been, got this long off me, I've been mentioning it for 6 years.
Thank you very much.
Yes, burns a media crater.
Yeah, I heard a complete program on this Golden Bones dude.
Okay, and here is Louisiana Space Jump.
Here's the classroom.
On there you can find, okay, this is to that particular.
With the convention that
I'm at the convention, yes, over at the Wingo. Now, this is,
tell me what you just said.
well, it's basically that when my thoughts of things, what could be and what is, it got into religion, but then you get into religion, or you find out you're arguing for 20 years about religion, and there's all so many religions that who is right and who's wrong. Then you get into the UFO stuff, the financials, and you created 10,000 more questions to ask, and you thought you were, brain dead with the religion.
Brain dead is a good word,
yeah. And so then you get into this UFO stuff, and the more you get into it, you realize that you're coming to the same thing again and becoming brain dead, because you got so much stuff that you cannot analyze it all. And then you got to figure out what's true and what isn't true. And there's so much what I call circus into the UFO phenomenon that they're giving you entertainment like wrestling or cartoons, whatever, and not giving you the true information. So that's kind of why I enjoy this gentleman here, Dr. Jill, I guess his name is, just getting us some of the raw material.
I have never met any of these gentlemen, and so I thought it was a wonderful thing to look into.
Yeah,
so,
how could I get a copy of your...
And now we are talking to
Dr. Gilbert Fred Jordan.
Fred Jordan.
And I'm from Missouri, originally from Utah and then in California. And I've studied at Brigham Young University, got my physics degree from there. I have a master's degree in business administration, industrial engineering from University of Utah, studied industrial physics on a graduate level, and metallurgy and ceramics from Colorado School of Mines. Was at the University of Maryland, got an honorary or a doctor's degree in science. I've taught at Stanford, Cal State, Northridge, and so on. I did pioneering work in gravity research, nuclear gravitation and anti-gravity research for Martin Marietta Corporation and other corporations, designed computer systems, weapon systems, and everything else. I have been involved in being places such as Area 51 and most bases. I've been at about 28 Army bases and over 27 Air Force bases around the world. So I'm pretty well acquainted with what's going on.
I was going to say, my goodness, when did you have time to do anything else? You're such a busy man.
Yes, I've been busy.
Wow.
Now, it's interesting, there's people over at the other conference that are giving out misinformation. I provided to the FBI Mr. Bates, who was head of the four-region situation of Missouri, Arkansas, and Illinois, and Kansas, okay? So he had that area under his control, and part of Iowa. And Mr. Bates and I used to go to UFO conferences when they were in Springfield and Kansas City, and when he was active and so on. And photographs that I had taken at various locations, I had given to him to have the FBI labs verify them. Now, one set of photographs I took in back in California, I gave it to him. Another set in Willow Springs, and another set that I took when I was at Oak Ridge. My question was, were these UFOs our craft protecting our bases, or were they other crafts that were keeping track of what we were doing at our bases? So that's why the investigation was being done. Now, here are copies of the what I took.
Oh my goodness.
And I
Let's
took
see if I can bring that in.
this back in September, the late part of September, 1989. This particular craft was hovering right above the Oak Ridge facility, which of course you know is north of Nashville. After it was up there hovering,
It's orange.
it took off, it changed its color, which it does,
Orange.
and it took off and it did its thing. And when it reaches up to a certain speed, since we've been working on time machines, in fact, Eisner at, with the black hole, when he came out with the Museum of the Black Hole, the movie, part of it has patentable information. And so it's withdrawn from the version they give out to the public today. And right now, the government, Eisner's, Disney, and others are working on time travel. And some of these so-called flying saucers that the government's building and that maybe some of the aliens may be building may be time machines.
Time machines, yeah.
Okay, well, before this disappeared as a time machine thing, this is when it took off, just before it changed color to disappear.
Oh my. My.
Now, I guess you could say I'm awfully angry that there's somebody just taken, when I gave Mr. Whalen photographs, after I had given it to the FBI, photographs, and that there's people coming around and making money off of my photographs. I don't know if I'm going to turn around and sue them or let them have mud on their face and look stupid. With their little explanation that they claim that they got these photographs from a Palladian. You know what I mean? From another place. And they're selling the book under that they had inside information to get these things, just like Meyer with his photographs. His Colonel Stevens, you know what I mean? That's all that is promoting the book. You know what I mean? From this type of thing. I say to myself, well, here, I can show you for one thing.
Donald Ware wanted to book. Donald Ware in his presentations is using his photographs. I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, I have been going to all the talks, but I understand
Here's something. There shows an ID card that's non-expiring. Gets me on any base. I can, even since 9/11, yeah? There isn't an Army, Air Force base I can't get on. 2 weeks ago, I was at Whiteman. I was in the cockpit of a B-2 bomber. The B-2 bomber happens to have two forms of propulsion. The one form of propulsion is the regular jet propulsion for the pilot, which is noisy, it goes off, and of course, it isn't very stealth in the day, you know, when it goes, it makes a lot of noise. Well, when you figure all the bombage range and that it has to go 6,000 miles, they turn on another propulsion system, which is more advanced. Its weight is reduced, and it becomes quiet. And this technology has been proven. And so we have now, if you take a book written by my old friend who died, Philip Coursault, the day after Roswell, you will find in there that he knew things that we have been able to reverse engineer things, and our government has a lot of things. And of course, I'm saying there may be benevolent people out there that watch what we do on a military basis, but also our military does things. Now, this object over there, let me just tell you something about that object. I didn't know about it until I heard on TV that there was this little museum down in Eureka Springs. And then I went to the internet, and I found that there was this site that was talking about at Fort Belvoir, where there had been, they say, flying saucer over Denmark. And they give this particular very bad Xerox pictures of this object that supposedly they give different views of it, and I have copies of their complete document of all of their views. And you can't see an awful lot on it, but it says over Denmark and that the Army has, through the Freedom of Information object, has such an object. Well, I thought back to the good old days when I was at Dugway. I was at Dugway Proving Ground in 1968. My team, which was working with various companies, Martin Marietta, UVAC Corporation, and we were working also with Honeywell, to mention a few. And we out of Dugway developed my invention, which was the first explosively pulsed chemical laser. It was a chem laser, and the idea was, could I knock down a drone aircraft as a weapon system? We had a contract to develop this. We used the gunfire control system from UNIVAC, and we basically developed a system, and out of Wendover base, which was part of the old Wendover bombing range, they launched a drone aircraft, and this was at the time top secret level 7.
It has always been declassified.
Remember, when you talk about it, you have, in the old days, you have, for official eyes only, we call today, it's called restricted, then confidential, then secret clearance, and then top secret. AEC clearances, they happen to have such things as L clearances, C clearances, and Q clearances, and QX clearances, and so on. Well, all of these different clearances, and then of course you have your crypto clearances. Well, if you have beyond top secret, there's levels 1 on up, 7, and so on. So I'm saying anything to do with anti-gravity, anything to do with knocking down an NAWP thing, it's about beyond top secret. Well, anyhow, I couldn't talk about it. But then Aviation Week, 2 weeks after we successfully did the program, they went ahead and announced that a mysterious beam of light hit down this drone aircraft, and may have been a laser weapon, and it was an Aviation Week, and my team members and I were laughing at each other and smiling and saying, we had the tongue in the cheek and saying, well, we can't talk about it, but yeah, they published it Aviation Week, so somebody was around watching what was going on.
But well, all that's declassified now then?
Yeah,
okay,
well, it was declassified from the standpoint Aviation Week had somebody out by Wendover who photographed the drone being brought down. Well, the thing is, we had our project for doing it. Well, 2 generals called me in. One was an Air Force general, and the other was an Army general, both Bridgeton generals. And they went ahead and they said, can you develop, Dr. Jordan, a weapon to bring down missiles and UFOs? I said, well, yeah, we could do missiles. I said, what do you mean by missiles? ICBMs from the people, let's say, that are from Russia. If they send an ICBM against us, I said, well, as long as we're not the aggressor, if it's over our territory and we're sure that it's going to destroy one of our cities, then yeah, we can develop a system to bring down their missiles. And he said, well, how long is it going to take you to do it? I said, well, to develop it from an aircraft, bring down a drone, to perfect our system, I would figure 5-6 years. I told this in 1968. Now, if I got a piece of paper showing it's just come out that they've shot down a missiles, they did it 2 years ago, and they took the specs and gave it to TRW, which is run by the CIA, and it took them all these years to take the technology that my team had that could have done it in 6 years. It took them until 2 years ago, 2000, that they could knock down a missile, you know what I mean, using laser, continuous laser technology, a chem laser from TRW. So if they would have had my team work, they would have been ahead, you know what I mean, how many years? Well, the other thing that is critical to it is they ask about the UFO thing. I said, why do you want to knock down a UFO? They said, we want you to shoot down a UFO so that we can, because what UFOs we have recovered, we haven't got their propulsion systems, like the one at Roswell.
Right.
And so they made me read the complete report that's in the Roswell report, okay? You know, and the majestic documents on microfiche. You know, they sell it over at the other building, you know what I mean? The document, and it gives just the briefing, the first few pages, and so on. But there's no appendixes that you ever read. I read all the appendices.
Little short, I don't know if my tape is going to run out. Can I get ahead of you for a minute here? I'd like to know how you got affiliated with this.
That's what I'm leading up to.
Okay.
This is directly involved.
It is.
It's absolutely involved.
Can you hold it for me for a minute, please?
The camera?
Yeah, because, hang on just a minute, please.
Well, the thing is, basically, when they showed me that there was a contingency plan for revealing information to the public, written by Cecil B. DeMille, and that isn't in the documents. They say that Cecil B. DeMille wrote that plan for Truman on how to, through using Hollywood with science fiction films, you know, like Independence Day and others, reveal, you know what I mean, confuse the public for the big announcement and so on. Basically, all that I read in that thing at Dugway. When I was at Dugway, when they showed me that, they showed me pictures of UFOs and said, now we want to be able to take down these UFOs to reverse engineer them. And I said, well, have you got any fragments from any of these UFOs? We'll show you one right now. They said, here is a UFO fragment that was taken, given by the British intelligence from a Foo Fighter that was over Denmark. Foo Fighter was the predecessor name of UFO. During the World War II, we call them Foo Fighters. And this Foo Fighter, or this UFO, was flying, and the British planes were trying to chase up against it and try to shoot at them, and missed. Well, it went ahead, and the projectile was recovered by British intelligence. They gave it to our Army, and when I was at Dugway Proving Ground, they brought it out underground, out of the vault, the same where I read the majestic report. And they're talking about reverse engineering. Here they're showing me an object about the size of that object. Looks very similar, and said, this is the Army object. It's made of aluminum, silica. At that time, silica and aluminum could not be put in an alloy and put into that kind of configuration. And so I'm saying that they had that together. I handled it, and I said it, and I said, you're trying to come up with this kind of technology and so on. They said, yes. And that's why we want the laser technology for you to build. I said, well, I don't want to do a offensive weapon to start a war. And as a result, they gave the contract instead of to Martin to Boeing. Instead of giving the contract from Univac, they gave to Texas Instruments.
I wanted to ask you, so how long, I was looking for tapes, I missed a little bit. So how long have you been involved with Bob himself?
With Bob himself?
Yeah, with the...
About maybe 6 months.
6 months, yeah. Yeah,
But I'm not in his corporation. I'm not getting paid for it. I'm just being a consultant. I'm just being a nice guy.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, so...
I know, whereas I want the truth to come forth. I'm not in it like these people who are in there to make nothing but want to come clean. And I'm not afraid of the government, because the government's afraid of me. They told me before I went with Bob, they said, don't have anything to do with it. A guy from the CIA came to me and said, Dr. Jordan, don't do anything with him. And I said to the guy from the CIA, I said...
I got 2 minutes here. My whole thing is here. Since that piece is available, and I've talked about it for a couple of days now, how come they don't want to examine it according to Bob here? Nobody wants to help him. That's what I want to know. How come?
They're afraid
And I have
of the
2
truth
minutes.
that's coming out.
Yeah. So they just discredit you as a whole? So it's not
the idea is a well-known tactic. First of all, they intimidate. They couldn't intimidate me. They couldn't intimidate him. The second tactic is ignore.
Ignore.
And this is a well-known tactic. And I'm saying right now, if you look at the difference of the number of people that come here percentage-wise on something legitimate, and you go over to, I've been to these, look, I've gone to UFO conferences.
Now, when, if you remember when David Montgomery was here, he made reference to, he showed us the newsletter from Boeing's where they had gotten a contract to build missiles, and then also Boeing's had subcontracted with the Russians to create something to shoot them down. And I think that's what, I'm not sure, but I'm almost sure that's what David Montgomery made reference to, which now in hindsight turns out is Dr. Jordan's work that has now resurfaced. And I don't know how we're running for time, but I think we want to get to the next clip, which is Darryl Sims. Now, I did not know I was going to be able to go to the conference, so I went to Ocean Shores to have a visit with the alien hunter, Darryl Sims. The alien hunter, the gentleman that removes implants from people. And so the next thing you're going to look at is Darryl Sims in Ocean Shores talking about pretty much what we talked about here. I'm in Ocean Shores. Turned out I didn't have to go to Bob White's Museum of the Unexplained, because look what I found in Ocean Shores. Darryl Sims. Hi Darryl, how are you?
Nice to be here today.
The whole fan club showed up yesterday, late last night, and you was gone already.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. What do you think of the area?
Oh, I love Ocean Shores. It's my first time actually being in this area. Sometimes I come up here and visit my friend, V2, the colleague, and but it's been about 5 years since I've been up in this area, so I'm very happy to be here.
So don't make it 5 years, but next time, and please come to the studio. You know, my viewers are real familiar with you. Now, I understand you're going to Missouri.
Yes, Bob White Conference. It's very good. I'm very interested in going, and then after that I'll be going to England for a little over 3 weeks. I'll be in England for almost a month, and I've got a series of conferences I'm going to do there. And then hopefully, if I get a break in between, I'm going to take off and go to Italy. I'm going to visit with a scientist for 3 days who's doing some scientific work, and hopefully will build me an implant detector.
Oh,
great. That's the program anyway.
That's one of the things that I appreciate about you, being a psychic myself. I know we can do a lot of things, but I like to get a scientific spin to things, if you know what I mean.
Well, it kind of gives verification to things that you know that you feel or think.
Yeah, and then in your talk yesterday, you showed photographs of all the medical work that you do, which you mentioned that to me.
Yes, a lot of the medical work we do, we have a scientific medical team of about 70 professionals right now. In fact, we picked up 3 morticians this just the day before I came here.
Morticians.
3 morticians. Of course, everybody's like, why in the world does you need a mortician? I said, well,
why the world do you need a mortician?
You just need to think about that.
Yeah.
What in the world could that possibly mean? It means we have some evidence that we may need their kind of expertise.
Yeah.
So these are ongoing cases that are brand new, and so we just have to have some additional professionals in that particular realm. So we've also got a mathematician who just came on board, which I'm extremely excited about, because I want to do some work in fractal geometry with him concerning UFO phenomena, which I think will be very predictive and fascinating. So they're just little things like that I'm just kind of excited about.
Yeah, well, most of my viewers are familiar with your removing implants with Dr. Lear and all of this. Now, other than what you just mentioned, are you any further with your findings than you were, let's say, 5 years ago?
Actually, I am. We're a lot further, and the reason I've not made a lot of that public is because, and I don't want this to sound negative, but unfortunately it is to me, is I got tired of people stealing my work and claiming it as their own. So I kept a lot of it quiet, and a lot of it's going to come out real soon. A book is fixing to come out called On Fluorescence, from invisible to visible. And it shows the work that we've uncovered of how evidence is actually found on abductees in the infrared and ultraviolet range, as well as the visible range. It's a fascinating read. It goes into cattle mutilations, how the DSP satellites, for those of your viewers that have seen the movie Enemy of the State, where that satellite in space can read your watch and all that, well, that's what the DSP satellite is. There's 18 of them, as a matter of fact. They're floating around the world. In fact, one of my abductees is a DSP satellite specialist who designed some of the equipment that went on the satellite. And he met with me privately and said, oh my God, he said, how in the world did you discover to use infrared and fluorescence looking for abductees?
Well, you know, unfortunately, they got here a little late. We had a UFO case here locally. And Jim Clarkson, if you ask him about it, he'll tell you about it. Well, the people came last night, and one of the things was a lot of things were fluorescent around that site, including our hair. So they want to come see you.
Very good.
Now, Dr. Gibbons, where are you going? He's trying to hook the spook lights to a system like that, so I'm sure you'll enjoy them. And the reason I keep mentioning them is because I'm going to put you on their show, and so everybody can go to Missouri here.
Oh, Missouri is a one. I'm looking forward, because Bob White, according, in my opinion, Bob White is probably the most...
It's the most honest person.
Honest man that you'll ever meet. I mean, how many people do you know went out and took a polygraph test on his own, paid for it, just to show that he was telling the truth of experience? I mean, the man's so credible.
Yeah.
It's just...
And while you're at it, talk to Dr. Jordan. When you talk about people stealing your work, he has a thing or two. He has a wonderful, a real good picture of a UFO that someone stole from him and claimed it came from the Pleiades. So
I hate it when people do that. I mean, plagiarism is the highest form of compliment, I'm told, and I'm sure that he feels very complimented, because I just can't.
Well, I don't know. No, Dr. Jordan.
It's really awful to have you see your work in someone else's book and your own writings and so on, as if they wrote them themselves or they got permission from you to do it, and that's happened to me a bunch of times. I just got tired of it.
I think that's one of the problems with Bob White. You know, everybody's looking for that one thing, and if we can really prove it is that one thing, that's going to cut off a lot of money to a lot of people.
Yes.
So, and I think that's why
I think you're right, and there's an enormous amount of jealousy in the UFO community among different speakers, and I hear people saying things like, oh, if you just would all get together. Well, that's not going to happen, because a lot of these people are in business to sell books and to make, and I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying that's their business, and they're not going to share anything with anybody. You're just going to hear it, and it promotes what they do or their book or whatever, and that's just the way it is. I mean, it's just business.
Yeah. So your passion is your work, is it?
I am very passionate at what I do, so much so that I'm sure people think I'm obsessed. The fact is, I'm very, very interested in the phenomena. I love what I do. I love my life. I'm just delighted with, and then going to these conferences, meeting people like you, that just tends to brighten my whole day. And, so I'm just delighted to be on your program, and your viewers are fortunate to have you providing all this for them.
Yeah, they real familiar with you, because we've been trying to introduce them to you now. Your wife shares your passion, or said another story? And you don't have to get personal if you don't want to.
Not at all. My wife is supports me 100% in my work. She is not an abductee or involved in that end of it or anything, but whenever they send me 2 tickets, like when we went to France, they sent 2. I asked them, I said, you know, what about my wife? And they said, oh, we'll send you an extra ticket.
Cool,
I said, okay, so we just extended, made a vacation, went all over Europe, had a lot of fun and that sort of thing. She's very supportive. She said the thing that moved, touched, and inspired me was when I was standing in the hallway watching at 2 o'clock in the morning, all those French abductees lined up in the hallway. This was years ago when they were showing the alien autopsy film, and it was very famous, and everybody said, oh, she said, instead of watching the film, they're lined up in the hallway, listening to you speak in English while somebody translates in broken French for them to understand. She said, they remind me of a bunch of little chicks around a mother hen. She said that was just so moving to see people finally getting answers for the first time in all their lives. So anyway, she's very supportive in that regard.
That's good, yeah. The Clarksons, they, Joanne.
I met her yesterday. She's a wonderful lady.
Yeah, everybody is familiar with Jim Clarkson too, so he's lucky that he has a mate that's supportive.
Oh, she's a wonderful lady.
Yeah.
Very, very supportive.
And you have a helper here, and
she's just a helper. That's she's my assistant today, and her and her cousin are here at the conference, and they got their own booth, and she's helping me out, just learning some things about the UFO phenomenon herself. So.
That's wonderful. You know, we need young people to take our place because we're working so hard and we are running out of time. We're getting tired. Would you agree?
Well, I hope I'm not running out of time.
Well, I'm tired. Well, we don't have another 40 years.
That was one of the statements I made in my conference yesterday. In fact, I spoke to scientists last night, and they said, well, we're very excited by all your work here, and Mr. Sands, blah, 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 and all this, and we're taking the scientific. I said, well, listen to me. I said, there's more to it than just, quote, unquote, the science.
Yeah.
I said, by that I mean, what we have to do is come to some conclusions. You have to develop some baselines here and then pursue it. And I said, if you don't, you'll be another 500 years trying to figure out what might have happened 50 years ago. And I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, and then the emotional aspect of the whole subject
we've got to come to closure on this.
I had a woman come last night, and we were talking about things, and when she left, she says, well, I can work with that. And that was as close as we could get to...
but it's closer than she was before.
Than she was, yeah.
So that's the point, that there's movement in the right direction.
Yeah, so that's great. I know you have to get back to your work, and I'm going to Olympia, and please stay in touch.
Oh, I certainly will, and thank you, your viewers, and let me say something to your viewers, if I may. For just a moment, I'd like to tell them, if you find any physical evidence or fluorescence or any other physical evidence that you want studied, we're more than happy to study it for you. It's free. We do not charge a penny to any abductee. We don't charge for medical work. Everything we do is free. It's a philanthropic effort. The bottom line, we're interested in what's going on. That's the whole point. So if you have evidence or know of anyone that does, please send them to me. My email is dwsims@yahoo.com, or simply go to alienhunter.org.
Oh, you go to my webpage.
Or go to your webpage.
Yeah, you got
and click on, and there you'll find my email address there, and I answer all my emails. So
yeah, you do.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to your people.
You're welcome. Yeah, and give everybody in Missouri a hug. Wonderful people.
I will.
It'll open up a whole new world there.
Yes.
It'll be great. So thanks for taking the time. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to get on the highway, and there's Miss E.T. just being hypnotized. No.
Yes, of course. Catmatized.
It's just hypnotized, yes. So thank you, Darryl, and I hope you have a safe journey home.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, Miss E.T. the cat, she's still going along. In the meantime, you know, it sounded like I was not going to be able to go to Bob White's conference and see Darryl and Peter Davenport and all the Dr. Gibbons and all the other friends. Well, in the meantime, as sometimes it happens, universe just changed all the plans and said, here, get on this plane and go see about the conference there. And then I'm going to leave you with a cliffhanger here. Barbara McGuire. I still get calls from Barbara about Barbara McGuire, and people want to know what happened to her. I had kind of lost track of her for a few years because she wasn't feeling well. The other day, she popped back into our lives. So going to the conference along with Darryl and all the other people are Kana Shibushan, Barbara McGuire, Monica Ryan Smith, Electra Ann, and Michelle Kaiser. So there's going to be 6 of us, of the friends, all going to Missouri to spend more time with Bob White and at the museum, and of course Darryl and Dr. Jordan. And here is the interesting thing. When sometimes we meet people, we really don't know how they're going to be fitting into our lives. And to go back to Dr. Jordan for a minute there, I was just there. I was going to do a quick interview and be on my way. Of course, that did not happen. In the meantime, we have shown you all the other interviews, which was the Bob White story. We've shown you, we've taken you to the Spooklights of Joplin, Missouri. That is available on the webpage. And today, when we leave here, we're going to take you to the Spooklights in the closing shots. And then, of course, there's Dr. Jordan. Now, next week, I'm going to take you to Reed Springs, to the museum. And there we'll talk to Dr. Jordan about earthquake prevention and meet his wonderful wife, Christy. And so here I had met these people in passing, not Darryl, because Darryl's been in our lives for a long time. And so just in passing, we met these people, and now it turns out they are so vital, so important, and just so wonderful to have in our lives. And I want to impress on you again. When you go to the grocery store and you bump into people, say hello, tell them who you are, because you never know who these people are at the grocery stores. And sometimes you run into people with brilliant minds that you would miss, under different circumstances. In 2004, we're going to have a whole series of shows that give you updates on things. We will probably go on the road again, and hopefully we will revisit all the friends in Reed Spring. I always call it Reedville for some reason, in Reed Spring, Missouri. And again, I need to thank everybody that helped make this possible. On the road, Sean Yanker, Caitlin, then when I come back, Clarence Moore puts a lot of the clips together. Then the crew, Ebony, Malcolm, Destiny, Bernie, John, and all the people that's involved to stick all of this together for you and make it fit some kind of way. And so we can bring you these stories, and thanks for cheering us on. And like I said, we're going to go to the Spooklights today. And I will re-air the Spooklight show in its entirety here shortly. And so I hope you enjoyed this visit with Dr. Gilbert Jordan and Darryl Sims and our capnetized kitty, Miss E.T. So I don't know how I'm for time, but I think it's almost time to go. I have to catch a plane, and so I can come back next week and talk to you again about Bob White and his object and all the friends in Missouri. So am I done? I'm done. I'll see you next week. Enjoy the Spooklights.